Hello there. I'm finally back. Sorry for being away for so long all of a sudden, for like a couple months. I had plans that needed to be done, and because I had a poor setup during those times, I wasn't able to record any more videos for you guys. But now that I am back strong, I want to continue covering the majority of Save the World for everyone that is currently watching, and thank you in advance, really. So I want to start off really good here for this comeback. I decided to cover something fun that I've used when I was goofing around 160s. And after I got 5 weapon superchargers to spare, I decided to use them on a pistol weapon since I've already supercharged shotguns, assault rifles, and a few melees. So obviously I went straight up to the mythic weapon because they're like usually the number one go-to weapons to supercharge. They are strong indeed, so better make them even stronger. So the weapon I supercharged is the Storm King's Onslaught. You can obtain the Onslaught schematic after completing the weekly quest of the Mythic Storm King or the Regicide quest. I do have a guide for it if you haven't gotten into the Mythic Storm King yet, so make sure to check it out whenever you're interested. Anyway, most people find the Onslaught not the best mythic weapon out of the 5, but believe me, it is actually a really powerful pistol. It has a unique 6 perk that's unlike any other mythics have. Projectiles go for the enemy's heads, amazing range while aiming down sights, and it has the highest base crit chance in the game with 25%, which is really good to be honest with you, despite having low base damage. Now, I have multiple copies of the Onslaught schematic and upgraded them to max, but I supercharged the crit build one for sure because obviously we want to go for the highest damage possible with this thing. The other two I have here, the first one, I built it for dealing more headshot damage, and the other is a physical element copy for a general crit coverage build, but again, I went for the full crit one to get as much damage as possible. Okay, so the 6th perk is placed on top like the black metal schematic ones. Firing homing projectiles to seek out target's head, aiming down sights increases the range from 4 to 12 tiles but decreases fire rate. So basically it's an aimbot weapon. Headshotting enemies does deal a pretty good amount of damage even with this weapon, just has a 1.5 headshot multiplier. Explains why I made another copy for the headshot damage build. It will still delete enemies with little amount of energy cells used, whether using it for single target or for crowds. So even with a 25% base crit chance, I still want to run at least 1 crit rating so I could probably crit for like half the time. I could change this to like headshot damage if I want to deal more of that, or just overall damage if I'm sure someone is going to run like boom base, for example. It increases the crit chance by a little, that's for sure, but even when I run totally rocking out loadout, I would rather just keep crit rating as a preference. If this weapon had a 3rd crit damage perk, it would easily be just stupid strong, but we only have 2. This thing can actually have 2 perks of damage to mist monsters, one here and another one right here. They are really good options if you prefer to use this against smashers and mini bosses, because I know most of you guys would rather see a weapon that is capable of killing big targets or enemies with huge amount of health points. The projectiles does go for headshots, so I'd say it's quite fine to have it there, although I didn't have it here because to this day I still have no idea how the hitboxes on smashers work. The fire rate perk is alright too if you don't mind shooting more at the cost of energy cells. It can have up to 3 fire rates if you're that crazy to shoot too much because it sounds cool. Well, I'd rather not have it overheat that quick, or just craft 2 copies and swap them each time it happens. But honestly, I wouldn't say it's not worth it, but probably just something fun you can try if you're not as broke as me in materials. I think this could be all for looking over the Onslaught's perks. It's almost about the same as the Scourge, but in a cool way. Cooling rate and heat capacity perks can be good options too if you either want the cooling speed to be faster or you want to shoot as many projectiles as possible with more capacity. I believe no matter how you build your Onslaught, it will still be as powerful. So the loadout I used when recording was a basic Crackshot build. I know there's Beetlejuice for more crit damage, but I somewhat just prefer Soldier class hero as a commander because of the class perks and base health. Obviously, we have Crackshot as our commander. He stacks up to 50 buffs that increases a small percentage of ranged weapon damage and a debuff that decreases weapon stability. If you don't know what exactly weapon stability perk does, it's basically recoil on your weapon. It doesn't do anything with Bloom, like it moves upwards way less, and it's stable while you're shooting. But since I am using a mythic weapon that goes for headshots most of the time, I don't think it'll bother that much. So yeah, Crackshot seems alright as our commander for this one. Oh, by the way, Bulletstorm Jonesy does about the same with Crackshot, but the buff stacks up to 25%. Both of their perks work out really well together, in which helps amplify weapon damage. It really does amazing with about any ranged weapons, like the Onslaught, especially with full auto, since you're able to stack the buff for every shot in seconds. Moving on, we have Totally Rocking Out as our team perk, Battle Beat and Fumble and support to activate it. If you want Wafers instead, you can possibly switch to that with Fumble if you don't really like to move around or dislike RNG. For me, I have it because the Onslaught can manage to kill crowds of husks with or without explosive rounds. Explosive rounds in support here, for every 6 kills with a ranged weapon, you'll trigger an area of effect explosion that deals 37 base damage in 1 full tile. Base damage of 37 in support is actually really strong, and its explosion is a full tile range. So whenever there are a bunch of husks, especially during mission defenses, or maybe you want to destroy a big ugly encampment with annoying enemies, an AoE passive like this perk could be a great option. So that's why I had Wukong in this one. Of course, Beetlejuice for increasing pistol and SMG crit damage clearly takes a spot in this loadout. Honestly, these last 2 perks are just personal preference, which means you can change them to your liking or whatever you call it, play style. Of course, if you just want to solely focus on increasing your crit damage, Beetlejuice is definitely great for Commander Lead. If you've already done that much crit damage with the Rocking Rift buff and its team perk, you can for sure have Ranger Deadeye to increase overall damage with pistol and SMG. If you feel like boosting energy damage, Extraterrestrial Rio with Resonance Frequency in support does really good, as long as you're able to keep at least half of your shields and the weapon you use is energy element or energy locked. Now, rather an honorable mention for the hero many of you just never use for so many reasons. Jonesy Bot could be a great asset for a weapon that goes for headshots like the Onslaught. His perk increases headshot damage up to 50% based on your lost health. It does sound a bit risky. You may be able to deal more damage when your health is low, but you'll be very squishy in high power level missions. I'm not sure about him being okay as Commander Lead since I haven't tried him yet, but he's there if you want to try him out in the loadout. I just wanted to mention him because I don't know any other hero that increases headshot damage other than himself. I also have to say the Storm King's Onslaught is actually a really good pistol. The projectiles you shoot target enemies' heads, it is fully auto, it is a bit cheaper than using the Storm King's Wrath all day. Although it may not always be perfectly accurate, but it still has a great synergy with dealing headshot damage. It does have a good fire rate on it, in which you have to be careful with it overheating, but as long as you don't overheat it, perhaps aiming down sights for the 6 perk might help you. You'll have a great time carrying around a dangerously high DPS pistol. Like I said earlier, you can get this mythic pistol through the weekly Mythic Storm King quest. I just hope you didn't get it by staying on the ground the whole match because of your power level. Anyways, I would love to take a look on other underrated weapons and record those, and of course the meta ones, but those are beside the point or just low priority on my list. So yeah, I'm glad I could have the time recording this and sharing my thoughts to you guys, even if a certain weapon has been out over the years. I'll see you guys later. Have a wonderful summer or whatever season you're watching this video. Take care of yourself and love yourself.